The following program on KROC is sponsored and paid for by Meshbesher and Spence.
And Jason Johnston is with us.
Look at that, a new guy.
Yeah. Andrew Davik is the driver today.
The chauffeur.
He's just, sitting over there by the fridge.
Nice to meet you, Jason.
You too. Andrew got me here safe and sound.
Yeah,
so.
well, it's tough to get here in the morning through traffic. You know, you come down from the Twin Cities where life is easy, and it's a little rough down here.
I don't know. I might stick around a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
well,
good. You've got some good news for us.
I do. It's been an exciting week. We've talked to you before about the Stryker recalled hips, and it's a recall that happened about 2 years ago, and litigation has been going on since then. And just earlier this week, on Monday, Stryker announced that they were agreeing to a settlement program that people implanted with the Rejuvenate or ABG2 modular hips who have since undergone a revision surgery to remove that device can participate in a settlement program to compensate them for their injuries, for the surgery, maybe lost wages, and any other complications that they've had. So It was a big announcement. And
I imagine it's a big settlement, too.
It is. Stryker has said that they're estimating that it's going to cost them, on the lower end, is kind of how they're saying it, $1.4 billion.
Wow.
Man, I guess I hadn't realized that there hadn't already been a settlement. It just was in litigation? Is that was it just coming? We've just been waiting for it.
Yeah, so typically how these work is that there are, we call them a mass tort, so it ends up being something that involves thousands of different people because there are thousands of these implanted. So it's very complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, and so there's different consolidations that happen, and the litigation just takes time to kind of move forward.
Okay.
And so we've been going through the discovery process for the last year, looking at documents, but always trying to see if we can maybe resolve this rather than drag things completely out. There's a lot of people out there who, are hurt because of this, and they just almost want to put it behind them, but be compensated for what they had to go through. So this program really establishes that. Now, it's not for everybody, though. It doesn't include everyone who had one of these hip devices implanted.
How's that?
It only involves people who qualify for it are people who had one of the recalled devices implanted.
Okay.
They had it implanted for at least 181 days.
181 days.
181,
okay.
So about 6 months.
All right.
Okay.
And then that they underwent a revision surgery, so that's the surgery where they remove it, on or before November 3rd of this year. So people who
all
have
those categories.
Yep, you got to meet all those standards. Plus, there's got to be proof in your medical records that the device failed because of the reasons for the recall, and that's a metal ion release.
So it sounds like it's a huge. I mean, it's not going to be an easy claim.
No, it's definitely there's a claims process, but it's really document intensive. It's not only do you qualify, but how much you qualify for. It's going to be in those medical records.
And then you had said when you sat down, I think there's the two models only of Stryker. Are there other Stryker models that are having trouble, or just those two?
Those are the two that have been recalled, at least in the last 2 years.
And they're not being used anymore.
Correct. So back in July of 2012, they announced that recall, so they haven't been used since that date moving forward.
So if you're getting a hip replacement or just gotten one here in the past year and it was a Stryker, it's not that Stryker, and you should be good. Unless there were some other complications, but that non-related to Stryker.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's different... like Stryker makes a variety of hip replacements.
Sure.
DePuy makes a variety. Biomet, right. There are a lot of manufacturers, and there are a lot of different problems going on, but a lot of similarities between some of these different manufacturers and their devices. And it's really about what we're calling a metal-on-metal phenomenon. It's when you have the device consists of multiple metal parts that are rubbing against each other.
And then that ends up in your blood.
It ends up in your blood. It ends up around the joint area and just kind of deteriorates that joint. And that's what causes people to have a lot of pain and other complications. And then they have to go in for those revision surgeries that we were talking about.
Sounds to me like there are a lot of problems with hip replacements, much more so than knee.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of problems with hip implants, but there's a lot of hip implants out there, so there's still a lot of people who are going to be just fine. But if they are having complications, it's a concern because the metal-on-metal hips have been promoted, significantly since the mid-2000s. There are some knee problems. We're involved in one knee litigation. It's a device made by Zimmer. It's a high flex knee. There's been litigation going on with those for about 2 to 3 years now. Mm-hmm. But really, it's a different problem than what we're seeing with the hips.
So to this point, anybody that was having all of these troubles, were they just in a holding pattern and hadn't gotten any compensation? Or
There was a program that Stryker set up to compensate people for their out-of-pocket expenses and their medical care. So there's a program where they can be compensated for that, but not for the pain and suffering that they've gone through.
So that's what Monday changes.
Yep,
there's now a line that is a part of the equation.
Yep. It is a program, though, that you have to actively participate in. There are deadlines. December 14th is the first deadline. If there's someone who qualifies for it and they want to participate in it, they have to register by December 14th.
Okay. Are those folks going to get a letter? Or they just have to be listening to the radio today?
They have to be listening to the radio. There won't be, if they've already had retained counsel, retained an attorney, they should be getting a letter from the attorney. Okay. But if they haven't, they won't be receiving a letter.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's why we're trying to get the word out to tell people about this.
So if you know of somebody who might qualify, or just, it doesn't hurt to check it out. Give you a call.
Exactly. We can talk to you about, try and figure out what device you had. If you qualify, what does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. And how do you go about trying to participate in this? December 14th is the first deadline to register, but that doesn't mean you're agreeing to participate in it. That's not, there's a March deadline then, and that's when you absolutely agree. So even if you had this and you qualify, you don't have to participate in the settlement. You can keep going forward with the litigation.
Sure.
So it's kind of an opt-in kind of process. And so there's some people who might see the settlement, see the numbers, and decide it's not for them, and decide they want to keep pushing forward.
All right. What's the number at Meshbesher and Spence?
You can call us at 888-728-9866, or just go to meshbesher.com, and we've got all our numbers and information on there as well.
All right. Jason, thanks for coming in.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.